Welcome back. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. It's the radio show and podcast. It's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I did something really interesting this week. My wife is so great at finding, like, cool stuff to do that I would miss because I don't, like, pay attention. And she found that there was this, it was like a one showing at a local theater here of this documentary film about Michael Hutchence, the late and former singer from NXS.
There's a movie, is that?
Yeah, it's called Mystify.
Right.
At least now, I think there have been several movies done, as well as like one of those VH1 behind the music things. But anyway, this one I think is apparently fairly new, and it was one of those like special event things. So it wasn't. You could only go one time when it was shown.
I saw a trailer for that, but I didn't know anything else about it.
Went and saw it, loved it. It just kind of blew me away. And then it was interesting because we wound up back home having rum and talking about it and talking about him, and then the conversation turned to we were listening to NXS music, and the conversation turned to
Weird ways people die.
Well, it turned to like great singers and frontmen who we've lost, and wound up talking about your old friend Tim.
Tim
from the
McGlashan,
Buddha Crush, yes,
from the Buddha Crush.
and then listening to some Buddha Crush music.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of you the other night, just
Awesome.
just thinking, is that Ian on guitar? That's some pretty tasty stuff there.
Well, I play a little guitar.
You're pretty good at that little instrument there,
right,
dude.
Dude, you're actually pretty good.
Yeah, right. I know that guy. Well, anyway, welcome back to the show. It is show number 169 for Smokin' and Toastin'. Ian's going to pop the top on this St. Arnold and do some pouring. Oh, that was nice. Love St. Arnold IPAs, always have, and but this is one I have not tasted. Interestingly enough, it's got a huge grapefruit on the can there. You might want to show that back to the camera.
I'll get that up on the camera in a second.
See what I'm talking about.
My friend Josh can't see it anyway because he's only listening.
Yeah, that's right. I remember Josh is apparently visually impaired when it comes to our show.
That's right.
So.
He's
So it's just the way it's going to be.
He just listens. So this is for you, Josh. It's a picture of a grapefruit.
Yeah, and
right behind St. Arnold.
Right. I was going to say.
Oh, and there's also I love this. There's cowboy boots with ice skates on the bottom of them. Let me get that up there.
Wow. Is there ever grapefruit on the nose on this thing?
See if I can get it to this camera a little better.
Well, you're doing that. I am almost inhaling this.
I can
beer.
smell this like from a mile away.
Yeah, I can understand why they've got the big grapefruit on there, because it is. Now,
like if this was a different color, I would just think it's grapefruit, like carbonated grapefruit
now,
juice.
this surprises me actually a little bit that St. Arnold went this direction, because Art Car is a very grapefruity IPA. It's one of the reasons that I like Art Car, is because I generally like IPAs that have a little of that citrusy grapefruit vibe to them.
All right, so I'm going to make a couple predictions. First off, if you like grapefruit juice, you're going to love this beer.
Wow.
Brian hates this beer without even trying it already.
Yeah,
this is so hoppy.
About Wiki Brian?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. I can tell you it is very hoppy.
He hates this beer already.
But what's interesting, I think, about this beer is that the bitter that you get on the finish, which I know comes from the hop, but it's like a grapefruit bitter. It's like you were saying, like you had taken a drink of grapefruit juice and it would leave that sort of grapefruit bitter flavor on your palate. Yeah. I think it's delicious.
So
I love it. How does this work for you?
My first couple, I'm not huge on. I like good IPAs. I'm not huge on all IPAs, but this right here, it's my initial taste of this was like, I don't think so. But after a couple sips of this, I really, really like. This is a next to the pool kind of beer right here, and I'm willing to bet that there's going to be a little bit of malt profile that sneaks into this if it warms up a little bit. Now, warming up a little bit might also enhance some of the bitter in it. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to...
That could be, but it also could mellow it out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I take it we must have gotten a comment from Brian.
No, one of my old friends, Lenny, just said, me and my daughter are listening. She doesn't believe I know you. Hi, Lenny and Lenny's daughter.
By the way, Lenny and Lenny's daughter, do you know he's pretty good on the guitar? I mean...
I practiced once.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm still divided by this, but I can't kind of stop drinking it.
I think It's delicious, but
It's
it is
insidious
definitely
because it keeps making me want to drink it, even though I'm not entirely sure that I really like it.
It is definitely a bitter IPA. I mean, it's got a lot of bitter on the finish. Reminds me in many ways of an ESB, but with less of grapefruit to it.
Yeah.
You know how ESB, how that bitter
has the bitter, right.
stays on your palate?
I think maybe I'm a little polarized by it because it's the first beer of the day, so to speak, and this is pretty advanced for the first beer of the day.
Well,
like it's pretty shocking.
I thought about maybe not going with this one first, but we've got this sour that's aged in whiskey barrels, and then we've got a peanut butter chocolate pastry stout. So
this is the latest beer.
This is the lightest beer I brought today. So I don't think the ABV is that high on it. I don't know if it says in the can, but
I don't know. It
doesn't strike me like
drinks
a double
really
IPA.
clean. It leaves a bitter, and this would be so good with like tamales.
Ooh.
Can you imagine tamales with that super spicy green sauce?
For those of you
now, I'm not talking about the tamales that you go get at the grocery store. I'm talking about the tamales that when you're hanging out at the bar and a lady comes walking in with a bunch of tamales.
Bar tamales are the best tamales in the world
ever. The only thing better that are even equal to bar tamales are when you're like in a small town and some lady goes, "Hey, I've got a friend that makes tamales. You want to buy a batch?" Like that's the only thing that matches it.
There was a little. I don't think it's even there. I think like a Joe's Ice House in the little town, just on the outskirts of the little town where I grew up. And there was a lady who would bring her tamales in and sell them there.
Oh, yeah.
And if you could get there when the tamales were hot.
There was a tamale guy that used to come around in the Montrose area here in Houston all the time. Really nice guy. His tamales were outstanding. And one night he was hanging out at the bar at the end of the bar, and apparently the bartender, a friend of mine, gave him some beers. And he was in the bar a little too long, so the tamale lady came in and put a quick end to that.
Oh, really?
And then for about the next year, you would see the tamale guy was sitting in the car, and the tamale lady would come in with the tamales.
Okay, so you're talking about the tamale lady.
The tamale lady. And the angrier she looked when she came in, the better the tamales were. So there was a direct correlation.
Always beware the tamale lady and the muffin lady. Have I ever told you the story about the muffin lady?
I don't know anything about a muffin lady.
Years ago, and if Todd Newton's still watching, he will remember the story because he and I worked together at a radio station in St. Louis, Missouri. And there was this, I was doing a morning show, and so I'd be off the air around 10 o'clock or so, and sometime between 10 and 11:30, this lady would show up. We were in like a high-rise office building. This lady would show up with a basket of muffins and treats and stuff, all home cooked, and she would bring them to the building and go around from floor to floor.
Do you know the Muffin Man?
No, but I know the Muffin Lady. And everybody would go. You would hear people would actually get on the overhead PA. The Muffin Lady's here. It's the Muffin Lady. It was always a thing, right? Because her food was so good. So one day, I'm walking past the little kitchen area where there was a little TV, and I hear somebody go, "Everybody, come quick. The Muffin Lady's on TV." So we all ran into the kitchen to watch, and she was on some court show. Apparently, the Muffin Lady had used the proceeds from her muffin sales to hire a hitman to kill her husband. And he screwed up and got caught, and both the hitman and the Muffin Lady went to jail. That is a true story because you can't make something like that up.
I'm changing the name of our show. It's going to be called Smoking and Toasting and Random Tangents.
I'm sorry. I just had to do it.
We're just going to have a new segment of our show called Random Tangents.
How do you not talk about the Muffin Lady?
That's amazing.
And the thing is, I was sad about the hitman. I was sad about the jail sentence, but mostly I was sad because she wasn't bringing those tasty treats around anymore because they sure were good. Oh man! All right,
that's awesome.
I don't know how we transition from that, so we'll just do a hard right turn here. So, news from Washington: premium cigar breakers could catch a break from the FDA, as the White House has begun to apply pressure on the FDA regarding this cigar and cigarette legislation. Now, the legislation, as we've talked about many times, it's really about stopping underage smoking.
Right.
And that's what it's targeted as. But it's got some really onerous things that are very harmful to U.S. tobacco companies, U.S. tobacco shops, and ultimately those of us who enjoy a premium cigar.
Just leave a message in the comments out there about how many times you've caught your 16-year-old smoking premium cigars. We're not talking about Swishers. We're talking about AJ Fernandez or a Padron or something like that. I'm just curious.
By May, the FDA has to decide whether they're going to stick to the previous regulation or to the regulation itself that would force cigar makers to abide by the same compliance rules as all other tobacco products. That's what this is essentially about. If they do, the cost of that compliance, they're saying, could put nearly 90% of U.S. cigar manufacturers out of business and destroy almost 5,500 jobs, according to data compiled by Magnum Economic Consulting and provided by our friends at Cigar Rights of America.
My favorite part of this is this bureaucracy is doing this to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
For cigars.
At least where cigars are concerned.
Right.
But the FDA last week gave the opponents of the regulation, that would be us, reason to be optimistic. Under pressure from the White House, they've indicated that they may kind of just look the other way. In fact, and I'm just going to quote another story here. Premium cigars, they are now saying, are the lowest priority, indicating that there may be some relief on the way. The FDA is now saying premium cigars are the lowest priority on this. So it's kind of like...
Are you suggesting that somebody in the FDA has a clue? Because I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
Well, I don't know.
I'm happy about it.
I don't know.
But it makes me feel a little funny inside.
What's weird to me, though, is it's one of those things like I'd rather they just officially pull premium cigars out of the legislation.
Well, why wouldn't they?
Instead, they're saying, yeah, we probably will not really enforce this or it'll be the lowest priority. So some, gunslinger comes along down the road at the FDA and decides they're going to enforce it, and all of a sudden it's back. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather see it go. It's kind of like the guy that could beat you up and he's mad at you, but he's saying, "Yeah, I'm going to leave you alone," and you don't know whether one day he'll get mad again and come beat you up. That's kind of what it feels like.
It's just such a ridiculous. I have a hard time even wrapping my brain around it because it's such stupidity that it boggles my brain that it's even an issue.
Here's what it says. After May 12, 2020, the FDA will make enforcement decisions, on a case-by-case basis, recognizing that it is unable, as a practical matter, to take enforcement action against every illegally marketed tobacco product, and that it needs to make the best use of agency resources. The FDA intends to prioritize enforcement based on the likelihood of youth use, to our point, or initiation, to make the most effective use of its resources. The FDA's lowest priority among these products will include relatively expensive, large hand-rolled cigars that do not have flavors like fruit or candy or mint, given what the FDA understands to be their comparatively lower youth usage rates. So this is all encouraging.
Comparatively lower. It's
lower.
Non-existent.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's 0.001%.
Yeah, it's negligible. Negligible.
Well, we appreciate the recognition of being on the lower end of risk, said the executive director of Cigar Rights of America in an article that was posted on CNBC.com. But we'd like to not be subject to this regulation at all. So that's kind of where everybody's coming from. So
yeah, my favorite is
I'm encouraged, but
you're low on a priority. We still got our eye on you, buddy.
Yeah.
But you're kind of low priority.
Yeah. It's kind of like being pulled over and given a warning ticket.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why are we even going through this?
Right, exactly.
You could have hollered at me through your car horn.
Yeah, I've just gotten on that little thing. You ever have a police officer talk to you as they roll by on their
Yes,
their
that's
thing?
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You just yell at me through the car horn.
That's scarier than getting pulled over, I think.
I watched on my way here today. There was a wreck on the feeder, and I watched as I was getting on the feeder. A police officer light up a car. This car immediately was like, "Oh, slow down," and started crawling off the feeder with this cop right behind it. The car immediately starts moving to the left as soon as it gets on the feeder. I'm watching this as I'm getting on the freeway.
Yeah.
Traffic's kind of slow, and then there's a wreck on the feeder there too. So this car just ekes past the wreck and starts to pull over, and the police officer just pulls over to the wreck. So this poor guy thought he was getting pulled over
stopped.
when
Yeah,
the cop was just
yeah.
like, I just need you to get out of the way so I can get to this wreck.
That's funny.
You could almost feel the relief emanating
Yes,
from
I
the
know.
car.
Yeah, it's like radiating off of his car in waves. All right. Well, Ian, I was originally going to title this show.
Rory says, surely the FDA has something better to do. Rory, the FDA does not have anything
They do
better to
not.
do. Unfortunately,
No,
they absolutely do not.
They absolutely do not. Keep an E. coli out of the salad bar. Yeah, we'll deal with that tomorrow.
Whatever.
We got to work on this.
Taco trucks, no problem.
There apparently is one kid in 1954 who smoked a premium cigar, so we got to worry about that.
It was a congressman's kid.
Probably was.
Because the congressman had cigars.
That probably you may
See?
be right. See, there you go. I was originally going to title this show "How We Will Drink in 2020," and we are going to get to that. But now I'm wondering if the title of the show should just be "The Story of the Muffin Lady."
And grapefruit beer.
And grapefruit beer. We'll be back with more beer. In fact, we're going to jump from grapefruit to some sour ale that's been aged in tequila barrels. That will be in our next segment. I love me some Texas Winter IPA.
I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I liked it. I drank it. I even poured a little more and drank it. So I kind of like it.
It says on the can, 100% chance of hops.
Right.
You go, St. Arnold. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting.